Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the kickoff webinar of the ASEAN SCDP 3.0, Southeast Asia Social Investment Outlook, Insight and Opportunities for Social Entrepreneurs. My name is Joshua, and I will be your host today in this event. I'm from DKK Consulting. We are the appointed consulting partner of the ASEAN SCDP 3.0. And we've been working with the ASEAN Foundation since last year for the 2.0 program. Okay, welcome to everyone who are already in this room. I see there are a lot of people already. We are still waiting for the other participant, but first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for everyone who are joining us today. Your presence in this webinar will make an impact to the program. I would also like to say thank you and give a shout out to our partner. We have a partner. This event is supported by SAP and TikTok. And then we also wanted to say thank you, give a shout out to our community partners who have been working with us to disseminate the information regarding this webinar and the call for participants for the ASEAN SCDP 3.0. Okay, thank you again to all of our partners, and thank you so much for everyone who are joining us today from all over Southeast Asia. Okay, I see there are already 75 people in the meeting room, and I think there are still a lot of people are joining. Okay, so I think it will be great during this event to also get to know a little bit about you. Where are you from? With this very limited interaction, I would like to give a shout out to every country as well. I see there are a lot of people registering into this webinar. So if you could help me, please mention on the chat box where you are from. So please mention the city you are from and also the country you are from. For example, my name is Joshua. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. I would say in the chat box, Jakarta, Indonesia. I would like to see who are the participants? Where are they from? Okay, we have from Sabah, Malaysia. We have from Borongan City, Philippines, Myanmar, Brunei. Okay, Indonesia. Okay, a lot of people from Indonesia. Do we have someone from Vietnam? Oh, Philippines, Myanmar. Wow. Wow, also from Jakarta. Okay, someone from Brunei, Philippines, Laos. Okay, we have someone from Laos, from Indonesia, from Sarawak, Malaysia. Do we have someone from other country, from Thailand? Okay, we're still waiting for other participant to join. So we're curious, where are you joining from today? Okay, from Kuching, Malaysia. Okay, someone from Cambodia also already joined us, from Phnom Penh, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Okay, is there anyone from Thailand, from Singapore? Wow, Singapore, Nava from Singapore. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Like, okay, we already have 89 people and still joining. Singapore, though, we have Edwina from Singapore. Okay, so I guess all of the countries in the ASEAN is already represented in this room today. So it's really great to see every one of you. I'm really excited to share the insights as well as the speakers already here. I'm really thrilled, and I hope that we can provide you a lot of insights regarding the social investment and also about the program of the ASEAN SCDP 3.0. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our event, I would like to ask you to rename yourself using this format. This will help us to interact better later during the sessions. Probably there are some of you have the similar or same name, so it could help us to differentiate every one of you in the meeting room. Okay, so the format is use your name dash country you are from. So for example, I'm Joshua from Indonesia. It will be Joshua dash Indonesia. Okay, so it will really help us, especially during the Q&A session, so we know who are raising hands and also ask their questions. Okay, I will give you a few seconds to change that, your names. Okay, I think several people already changed their name, and thank you very much for that. Okay, we have, okay, yep. Please follow the format that displayed on the screen. Use the format name dash country, and we will start into our event at the moment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this webinar is brought to you by the ASEAN Foundation, supported by SAP and TikTok. And this webinar is held to provide you insights on the ASEAN social investment outlook and the opportunity that we provide through the ASEAN SCDP 3.0. So in this event, there will be two segments. The first segment is a 15 minutes talk with two investment professionals regarding the Southeast Asia investment outlook for social enterprises. And it will be followed by the second segment, where you will meet my colleague from ASEAN Foundation and two remarkable alumni of the ASEAN SCDP 2.0. So ladies and gentlemen, we are about to step into the first segment. Before I invite our speakers, I would like to encourage everyone here to be positive and very constructive during this event. Let's make this webinar a safe place to exchange insights, information, knowledge, and network. Shall you have any question, you may send them on the chat box, and I will try as much as I can to cover all of them. And during the Q&A sessions, I will provide the opportunities to several of you to ask directly your questions to the speakers. So we will invite you to unmute yourself and open your camera. Again, I hope everyone can be focused during the two segments of this webinar and participate positively, and let's keep the chat box in moderation. Someone from DKK Consulting will also moderate the chat box. Okay, without further ado, I am going to invite the two speakers for the first segment. We are going to discuss about the Southeast Asia social investment outlook. First, I will read their profile, and then I will invite them to the screen. Okay, our first speaker, her name is Anshul Magotra. She is a financial professional who has been working over a decade in the investment scene. She started her career in corporate investment for reputable banks, and since 2016, she focuses her career on impact investment, where she has worked with Ashoka for more than 7 years. In 2021, Anshul established Social Innovation Circle, a leading funding and coaching platform for social innovators looking to unlock new sources of funding. Anshul has advised several social entrepreneurs on fundraising and have helped raise impact funding in sectors including healthcare, climate change, education, and digital literacy. Okay, our second speaker is Dondi Hananto. Dondi is also a financial professional for sure. He has been working in the industry since 1999, working with reputable bank in risk management and microfinancing. His career in investment for social enterprises started in 2011 when he built Kinara, an accelerator and investor for social enterprises in Indonesia. In 2014, Dondi joined Patamar Capital. It is an impact-driven venture capital firm focusing on early-stage enterprises in Southeast Asia. Wow. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anshul and Dondi. Hello, Anshul, Dondi. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Joshua. Hi, doing well. And it's just so amazing to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's wonderful to be here with everyone and to meet such a large group of enthusiasts. So wonderful. Absolutely.
How about you, Mas Dondi? How are you?
Yes, likewise, very well, doing very well this afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone. Glad to be here, and I'm happy to have a discussion about the investment climate.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you, Anshu and Dondi, for your time and willingness to participate in this webinar. I would also give you, I would also like to give you opportunity to introduce yourself and also the organizations you're working with, because we already have like 113 people here. I'm pretty sure they're curious about you. So I'll start from Anshu and then we will go to Mas Dondi. Go ahead, Anshu.
All right, great. So yeah, thank you again, and lovely to be here. My name is Anshul Magotra, and I am the co-founder and partner at Social Innovation Circle. And so Social Innovation Circle, or SIC as we call it, it's a funding and training platform for social enterprises who are looking to develop financially sustainable business models and get investment ready. So me and my co-founders, we are basically a team of impact investors with over 20 years of investing history. And we specialize in social finance, which comes on the back of our investing history, as well as the fact that we've been working over the last many years, training and coaching hundreds of social entrepreneurs on investment readiness. So what we do at SIC is that we run a lot of courses, trainings, workshops, accelerators for social entrepreneurs. And we also train investors actually who want to learn more about investing in impact. So we train angels, impact fund managers, family offices, and the likes on best practices in impact investment, how to build an impact portfolio and so on. And through our investing arm, which is called Social Innovation Capital, we also make investments into a select number of social enterprises every year that we've worked with or trained. And on the back of that, we have created an informal syndicate of angel investors as well, with whom we co-share deals, ultimately with the objective of more funding going into the social enterprises we want to support. So yes, it's just wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Great. Dondi?
All right, thanks. Good afternoon again, everyone, and thanks, Joshua, for the introduction. Glad to be here. As Joshua mentioned, yes, my personal background has been in finance. I am currently a partner at Patamar Capital, and Patamar Capital is an impact investor. We're using a VC strategy, so we invest equity, early stage into impact enterprises in Southeast Asia. Our main investments in Southeast Asia have been Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines. So glad to see some of the countries represented, definitely. And in terms of our investments, we start our investments from the seed stage, which is usually $500,000 and beyond. So I am also currently active in the Indonesia Impact Alliance, which is an alliance and association of impact investors and other stakeholders in Indonesia. So I will be happy to share what we've seen in the landscape so far for impact investment.
Okay, thank you, Dondi and Anshul. I think we have two very great speaker here today, because Anshul is not only an investor, but also she's a venture builder, helping already like hundreds of social entrepreneurs on investment readiness and also building sustainable businesses. While Dondi already have like I don't know, more than over 10 years of investing in Southeast Asia. I think that would be great. So there must be a lot of perspective and insight that you can share to all of our participants today. So today's our topic is Southeast Asia social investment outlook. We would like to talk about the insight on this, and also like what are the opportunities that lies ahead for social entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia. So what I would like to bring as a context to this discussion is about the phenomenon that I've seen throughout like probably the last 3 years, We've seen a lot of crises, economic and political crisis all over the globe, and it has impacted the investment landscape. We've heard the term so-called tech winter, which is very impacting towards the technology startup ecosystem. We've seen a lot of them failing. The investment were not as aggressive as before. So it brings a lot of questions to me and probably to every participant who are here today. Is it the same thing for social enterprises? Like, what is the investment landscape look like for social enterprises in Southeast Asia? And what are the trends that has been evolving throughout the recent years? Can we start from Dondi?
Okay, thanks, Joshua. Yeah, I think by now everyone has probably seen or heard of the term VC funding winter and wondering whether that affects you. But I think before we answer that, I would like to remind everyone here, and I think most of the participants here probably run your own impact enterprise or social enterprise or thinking of doing something in that sense. I think what I would suggest and suggest everyone is, not to just think about how these things sorry, to really think whether these things might affect you, is to go back to yourself and think what kind of financing do you need, right? Because what we have seen is that a lot of times we meet very early stage entrepreneurs and they say, yes, I need this much of funding, but you need to be clear what you want to use the funding for. And then once you understand what you want to use the funding for, then you can think of what kind of sources of capital is suitable for you, right? So yes, VC has been greatly affected because of the macroeconomics and everything that's actually originated from the US increasing their interest rate. But what I say to a lot of entrepreneurs really is that VC is actually not the only VC might not be suitable for your company. So I would say only very few companies actually fit the VC or equity investment model. And that is really because once you get VC funding, you are expected to scale, and scale meaning you got to grow 10 times in 1 year. Can you actually do that? Is it actually possible for all businesses? I don't think it is possible for our businesses, and it's not a must for all businesses. So it's not the only thing that's that you need to aim for when you look for financing. So my short answer to Joshua's question is that yes, it's a lot harder to get VC financing right now, and because a lot of most of the VCs, whether they're impact or they're traditional VCs, are being more careful because again the equity investing and VC investment in Southeast Asia is still very nascent. It only started about 2010, 2011. So 10, 15 years is nothing in the sense of an investment cycle. So everyone is still learning. I can say that even for myself, I've started doing this in 2011. I'm still learning a lot on how best to make investments, how best to manage the companies, and how best to actually then get the investment returns. So it's still early days. I think rather than letting the news affect you, reflect back to yourself, think about what kind of financing you actually need, and then you can have a clear mind in thinking about who to approach. to get your financing. I think that would be my answer to that.
Okay, so even though the VCs are more selective currently towards the company they are going to invest in, there is still a lot of hope, because right now, equity investment is not the only investment or funding that you can seek, right? Do you agree, Anshu? What are your takes on this one?
Yeah, so I agree, and I'm going to try and put a positive spin around that as well, because there are a few peculiarities. If we look at Asia as a whole, there are a few peculiarities that are there in Asia. One being that, you know, Asia has predominantly been quite philanthropy oriented. So families and businesses with money, you know, they've traditionally supported causes and expressed giving in the form of philanthropy, right? Now, what has started changing in the last few years is that philanthropy itself is getting reshaped. So it is becoming more strategic. It is becoming more catalytic in that, you know, it is coming in to unlock more funding into the impact ecosystem, and it's also becoming more collaborative, which we are seeing with, you know, new kinds of funds and structures coming up, like donor advised funds and, you know, sector-based collectives and so on. So donors and philanthropists are also opening their minds to newer structures. Even if they want to still give from a philanthropic perspective, they are figuring out new ways of giving, which is, I think, making the field expand and at least making thinking around it a lot more strategic, right? And additionally, I think another very critical aspect of what is happening in Asia is that we are witnessing the largest shift in wealth across generations, right? And the new generation of inheritors, they want to do things differently. So while the previous generation of patriarchs and matriarchs, they wanted to give more in the form of philanthropy, the new generation is actually looking to invest more in impact, right? They're keen to invest in impact. They want to still work, you know, within maybe the parameters, or keeping the focus on what the cause of their family or their foundation is, but they want to give differently, right? They're keen to invest in impact. They and they want to give money to social causes, but they want to effectively see how that money can actually be used to leverage and catalyze more impact, right? So with these, I think large scale, they are long term for sure, but as Dondi also pointed out, it is a nascent industry in a nascent sector in Asia. It will take time for it to mature, but with all of these changes, there is hope that all of this will boost investing in impact in Asia. And also we can see the social enterprise ecosystem itself growing. So with that demand and supply coming in, with pipeline increasing, because I think there's always been a bit of, you know, concerns where investors go like, where is the pipeline? And the ventures are like, where is the funding? But with these positive things coming in, I think over the long term, the landscape should shift more towards in favor of impact investments.
Okay, so Dondi stated that the equity investment is currently very selective, but Anshul said that actually the impact investment, the impact fund is kind of growing because there is a shift of wealth and the way people distribute their wealth, investing in more strategic way. So based on this, do you think that even though like the investment for tech startups are currently declining, but the investment towards impact startups and also social enterprises in Southeast Asia, it's actually increasing? Because I read this report in 2020 into 2022. There are statistics reported that the number of impact funds coming into the region is actually higher every year. What is the correct information? Probably you can get it straight for us. Maybe Anshul first, and then
yeah. So no, so absolutely. I think what I talked about was more, you know, things that would take some time to bring in within the ecosystem. These kind of changes take a long time to affect. But you're right. I mean, we are seeing more activity starting to happen. Hopefully this year is expected. Dodi, I don't know what you think about it, but it's expected to be better than last year. Last year, absolutely, it was a funding winter, and not just in Asia, world over, right? I mean, we do a lot of work in other parts, you know, in Africa and South Asia, and it was pretty much a funding winter everywhere. So that's expected to change. But I think with these positive sort of thinking that is coming around impact, around, the innovations that are happening, not just in the social enterprise system, but also in the way impact is getting priced into structure, the new innovations that are coming in as far as financial instruments and structures is concerned. I think all of that will boost. And what I particularly like is everybody's thinking about it. So which is a big shift as well from where it was quite a small group of, I would say people or corporates or funders who were thinking about impact, and it was still something which was more of a buzzword in the past. I think that is becoming more mainstream. It will take time. There is no one sort of right answer to it saying that, yes, this year is the year where we're going to see maximum amount of investments coming through. But I think we are on a positive trajectory.
Okay. Dondi, what do you think about it? You're still on mute.
Right. Yes, Anshul was perfectly right. I think if we look at the data, the trend of the amount of impact investment into Southeast Asia and the number of deals actually is increasing. Especially if you look at, if you look back to 2012 when I first started doing investment. There's definitely a lot more, if you look at the trajectory, the trend is increasing. And one thing that is really very interesting, as Anshu mentioned, is that the local capital. So in the past, I would say a lot of the investments were driven by international asset owners. So these are mostly, development banks from larger developed countries from North America or Europe. And nowadays we are seeing a lot more discussions from asset owners in Asia, whether these are families from their family office or their foundations, or even corporate investors as well, started to be more active and allocate more of their dollars to impact investment. So I would say that, yes, the availability of capital is increasing. I think the big question right now is that, okay, we know that the capital is there, the money is there. How do we build the bridge to get that money down to entrepreneurs like yourselves, right? So those are questions about what I mentioned before about structuring. Do we do equity? Do we do debt? Do we do something creative outside of that? What are the actual needs? What's the strategy need to be? So those are, I think, the types of questions that investors are now facing, and I think it's only going to increase in the next couple of years. So I think, again, coming back to the entrepreneurs that are here, generally we can be optimistic that capital is going to be more available. The question would be, how do you get yourself ready to access that capital?
Yeah, so Dondi said that what we need now is actually a bridge, like to distribute the funds to the social enterprises. It brings me to another question, because economy is basically about supply and demand. Now that the capital is already there, the funds already there. What do you think about the ecosystem of the social enterprises in Southeast Asia? Are we ready for competing against to get all of this wealth and funds to finance the social enterprises, or are we still lacking behind the other region in the global? Maybe Anshu can start first.
Okay, sure. So as I mentioned earlier, the social enterprise ecosystem is still quite nascent here, right? But again, the good thing, as per me, I would say, is that we are seeing a rise in social enterprises now, right? Which are, of course, mission oriented. They do have a mission, a social mission that they want to focus on, but they're also focusing on financial sustainability. I mean, we are seeing innovative business models coming up, technology that is being used to unlock barriers to scale. So it's all growing, and so I would say the landscape is shifting to that extent. And while NGOs and every entity or every member of this ecosystem is critical. So while NGOs continue to play a very critical role in addressing all the challenges, the social environmental challenges we face, there is a noticeable shift or a trend that we can see towards adoption of social enterprise models, right? And this shift, especially in Southeast Asia, I think it is a broader sort of a recognition for the need of innovative and market-based approaches, right, to address complex and all the complex problems that we are seeing in the world. So yes, one, I would say the social enterprise ecosystem is growing, which is great. Secondly, there is a lot of support that is coming in as well. So governments are increasingly recognizing the need to support social entrepreneurs. So there are, policy changes, incentives that are coming in. And then there is this whole ecosystem of support coming through as well, right? We see increasing amount of incubators, increasing amount of accelerators. I mean, we are kind of launching one now, and organizations that want to support and cultivate the social entrepreneurs who are coming up with these kind of innovations to solve problems. And I think so, as you talked about demand and supply, so in a way, that's like kind of the supply side of it, right? Where that ecosystem is growing and getting supported. And in a way, keeping funding out of it, I would say when it comes to the demand side of things, which is needed to fuel this ecosystem, I would say that in a way, underpinning all of this is growing awareness amongst people as well, which is what I mentioned earlier too. I mean, people are, increasingly recognizing that there are a whole host of problems that need to be addressed quite critically. And they are understanding the need to move beyond what they are currently doing and to actively engage in addressing these problems, right? So whether it is in the form of a rise in demand for sustainable solutions at a personal level in terms of how we interact, how we consume, or it is in the form of corporates wanting to incorporate more sustainability into the way they function. There's so many corporates who are trying to make their supply chain sustainable, who are looking to make their operations more sustainable, or figure out better waste disposal systems, or whatever that might be. And this is really critical because this then ensures the adoption of the solutions that social enterprises come up with, right? You get that kind of a community buy-in, whether it's people or corporates or whoever it is. And that would then positively contribute to this growing ecosystem of social enterprises. And I think when this kind of matches, funding is needed to kind of see this through. But with everything, there are so many nuts and bolts in the entire picture, but all of them have to align and figure their way in for the whole system to work.
Yeah. Okay. So really great there. I put over a lot of points there. So basically the landscape, the ecosystem is growing, and not only the numbers of social enterprises, but however, the consumers as well, the awareness towards sustainability is rising, and even corporates also like taking initiative to make their operation more sustainable, and government are giving incentives like tax incentives and stuff to support the social entrepreneurs. What are your take, Dondi, about the ecosystem of social enterprises in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, thanks. I think this is a very interesting part, right? Because as I said, as practitioners, we are seeing that yes, there are more capital available now. The question is how we bring that capital into the demand, which are the impact enterprises or social enterprises. We from the Indonesia Impact Alliance, we've actually been working with some of our colleagues around Southeast Asia, from Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam, to try to map out the landscape of the supply and demand of impact capital. And so we have started with that study in Indonesia. It's almost complete. We're about to release the report. But what we have clearly seen is the gap for smaller early stage investment. And this is investments at the size of $100,000 to $1 million, whether that's equity or debt. Both we feel that there's a gap there. So, for example, the fund that I manage, Patamar Capital, we used to only invest $1 million minimum. We have come down to $500,000 minimum, but still we meet a lot of enterprises very early who don't need that much. Right? They may only need $200,000 US, and we don't know where to refer them. Right, there are definitely a lot more angel investors being active, but we still see that it's not enough, right? So I think that gap is clear. And also, when you need debt, when you're in Indonesia, for example, you may be able to access the government subsidized debt, or KUR, which is very small. But once you need something, a debt of 200,000, it's harder to get. Right, so that gap is very real, and what we've tried to identify is why that is. And from the supply side, we feel that because a lot of the asset owners, the capital owners, are who are interested to allocate impact investment into Southeast Asia are mostly development finance institutions or development banks. They are used to doing larger deals, right? They are used to making investments of $10 million and beyond for infrastructure projects. So it's hard for them to do something like a $200,000, right? It's not possible. So we're seeing that is one of the case, and even if they invest in fund managers like us, it's still hard for us to go down that early. So I think size is one factor from the supply side, and also the sectors, right? Because investors will only invest in sectors that we understand, and it's difficult to build that capability and understanding of each sectors. So we see that those are some gaps that's there. And on the demand side, I would close by saying that we also did a survey on almost 100 impact enterprises, and I think there's a need there for concessionary capital that don't expect returns at market returns, while the available supply are mostly still expecting close to market returns or even market returns in terms of the financial returns, right? So that's still that gap as well. So that's what we're seeing. At least we've been able to identify the gap. Now the next question is, how do we fill that gap? And how do we build that bridge? That is, I think, a work for everyone in the ecosystem.
Could I add something to that?
Yeah, sure.
So I think in some way, or a small little way, that is what we are trying to do as well at SIC, because we play a role in that part that you just talked about, and as it's normally called, the missing middle, right? So that's the role that we play, because we come in early. We come in with small amounts of equity for early stage entrepreneurs, and I think as you rightly pointed out, Dondi, I mean, obviously, if you're managing a fund, there are certain parameters that you have to play within, right? Whether it is whatever sectors you want to focus on, but we thankfully have that flexibility to see what is it that we want to really work on. And I would say from our perspective, like how SIC operates, well, I invest personally as well, and obviously with SIC. So with SIC, as I mentioned, we don't play along any set parameters at all. We come in early, we are sector agnostic. And because of the fact that our model is such that we put in small amounts of funding in ventures that we worked with, or we have trained. We try to come in early and support them with the kind of structure or the kind of funding that they really need. Again, pointing at whatever you said, Donnie, in terms of what is the funding that they really need for what part of the organization. So we go into that kind of a discussion to really understand what is it that the venture truly needs to move forward, and then we try to align ourselves to do that. So we try not to stick to just the structures that are available and that we see in the market. It's equity, it's debt, and we may just come in and do like a bridge loan, because that's the need for the venture. They need a bit of runway so that 6 months down the line they can go and raise equity, and then maybe we'll convert into equity at a discount, or we may give a repayable grant which is not repayable subsequently, but again converts into equity when they raise equity at a discount. So we try our best to see what kind of a structure, what kind of a funding would actually work the best for the social enterprise, right? Because there is no set way to support them, and we try to come and meet them in the middle. Obviously, we have to balance out our interests as well, but we try to ensure that we do something that works for them and works for us. And again, I think it's because of the model that we've created that we have that flexibility. And with this particular segment in particular that is raising 100 to 200, it is typically the angels who come in a bigger way to support them at that stage. And that is why we've created this syndicate as well of angel investors, so that we can co-share these deals and get more funding into the social enterprise that we want to support, and then get them to a stage where they are then big enough for a VC or subsequently a private equity player or whatever the case may be.
Okay, so Anshu, through SIC, you provided a very flexible ways to get capitals to raise funds, while Dondi is actually working with colleagues from all over Southeast Asia to actually map the gap and also try to provide solutions to the gap. What are the fundings that are available that can find these gaps, the so-called missing middle? I'm going to ask you about that, because you've worked with a lot of social enterprises and invest in many of them. What are the trends going forward? Like, are there any specific topics or sectors that the investor are looking forward to invest within this year or for the next 5 years? Are there any specific sectors, and what kind of social enterprise that usually the investors use as an ideal company to invest in? Is there any requirements, that the minimum requirements for social enterprises to be ready to be invested? Dondi, you may start first.
Okay. I can start then. Yeah. Again, giving the caveat that our investments are perhaps considered to be after what SIC usually does. So what I can say is there is definitely a global interest now on climate impact, whether that's climate adaptation, climate resilience, or creating new alternative sources of energy. That's a lot of interest there from the asset owners and allocators. So that is definitely a big focus in a lot of markets and for a lot of investors. For us, Patamar Capital, we haven't actually focused in that area. So our focus has mostly been social impact. So when you and I think this is a tip for you when you meet investors, what you need to perhaps dig from them is, what are their investment thesis? Why are they investing in this region, right? So for us, for example, our thesis is that the emerging markets of Southeast Asia has very high economic growth, and with the increasing growth, there's a group of segment of population, what we call the mass market or the emerging middle class, right? So these are the new middle class for our markets, because the markets are growing very fast. And with this growing population, there's a need for goods and services that may not be available for them. And these can actually be used to fulfill their basic needs, whether that's the need for food, whether that's the need for housing and shelter, or other things to support their lives, right? So, and that's why we call it actually livelihood improvement. How can we invest in companies that improve people's livelihoods? So we translate this into a couple of sectors. For example, we have a big focus on financial services, because I think it's a bit of a bias, again, because myself and my other partners, before we started Patamar, our experience was in financial services. I was personally from the banking industry, and we see that there is still a lot of population in Southeast Asia that is not reached by the financial institutions, right? People don't have bank accounts. People cannot access formal loans, those type of things. So financial inclusion is a big focus for us. We are also very interested in what we call SME development, because we are seeing that for markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, the majority of businesses in these markets are micro and SMEs, right? How can we help these small entrepreneurs improve their business, whether that's to improve the supply chain, whether that's to improve the way they manage their business? Those type of things are things that are very interesting for us. And a little bit related to that is agriculture, right? Because that is a lot of the SMEs in these markets are in agriculture. So those are the three large sectors for us. So coming back to Joshua's question, what would be interesting for investors? I think for us, we can say that we stick with what we know right now, and those are the sectors that we understand best, and the impact that we can measure well. There are things like education and healthcare where we continue to be very interested, but I would say it's still too tough. Two of those industries are quite tough to find sustainable business model when you're only focusing on the mass market, right? Because of the capability to pay and all that. So those healthcare and education remain to be very interesting for us, but yeah, to be honest, we haven't made too many investments in those sectors because we feel that the business models are not strong enough yet. So that's kind of our appetite. Every investor have different appetites, and I cannot speak to most investors, but yeah, like I said, a lot more investors are interested in climate, for example, which we don't understand too much yet, and we're still learning.
Okay. Anshu.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, of course, if I have to pick some of the trends that we've observed, definitely, as was pointed out, climate investing, there's been a huge surge in climate focused investment strategies, and it continues to gain momentum. I think another one that has gained momentum in the last couple of years and will continue to do so is, I think, gender lens investing. There's been a lot, and especially in Asia, we see so much of that picking up now. We've all heard of things like ESG, and the fact that ESG has been on an upward trajectory, and definitely there's been like backlash around it as well. But I think what is interesting is also to see that at least there's a growing recognition of incorporating the principles around environment, social, and governance into investment decision making, right? So yeah, some of the noticeable sort of trends have been around that. And as I mentioned earlier, the kind of innovation that is coming up in financing instruments as well, outcome linked structures. And we've already heard of things like green bonds and blue bonds and whatnot. And, actually, just to kind of talk about one specific such instrument that came up, I think last year, or it's been going on for a couple of years, is what I particularly find very interesting is where things like nature and ocean are now actually coming in as tradable assets and financing structures as well, right? So recently there were these debt to nature swaps that happened in countries in the African continent. And that I find very interesting is definitely one, because to have nature as a tradable asset just opens up the entire landscape, right? With the kind of funding that can come through, if you can actually, and that is what is being seen in these kind of swaps as well. These are like hundreds of $millions worth of funding that is coming through. And that's exactly what is needed if you want to solve the climate and environmental crisis that the world is facing. But if I were to talk about SIC and our investments in particular, so as I mentioned earlier, we are fairly sector agnostic. Having said that, we have made more investments in healthcare, in edtech, in digital literacy, and in sustainability solutions as well. And over and above what Dondi already talked about, you need to see a market-based approach that is solving a problem for plenty of people. One thing we also look out for is where the innovation really lies. I think as investors, it is very important to see and to be on top of where the next kind of innovation is coming from, right? So again, talking about an investor myself, I find solutions that are coming up, let's say, with the use of AI, like right now, there's so much happening in this space. AI is being used to enhance, weather reporting and weather forecast, predict extreme climatic events, and even figure out what would be the impact of such events on communities and how to mitigate that. I mean, similarly, it's being used to improve for sustainable agriculture, right? Where AI and data is being used to figure out, soil health and cropping patterns, and satellite imagery being used. So all this is very exciting and very interesting to keep an eye out on. And again, as I said, that as an investor, it's important to kind of have that outlook and see where that next innovation is coming from, right? And most of these innovations may not be investable just as yet, because there hasn't been widespread acceptance of something like this. But I mean, there was a time when solar energy used to be uninvestable because it was so expensive, and then things changed. Prices dropped, and then a whole host of models came up as a result of that. So individually or personally as an investor, I love to keep an eye out on new innovations that have the potential to unlock industries in the future, right? Another example would be, which I find interesting, is food tech, protein or meat made from microbes in the air or from microorganisms using fermentation process and so on. So that's what keeps me very excited and interested in the space.
Okay, so there are several questions in the chat box. I guess you've already addressed that, because some people are asking whether the investors are still looking to invest on the ag-tech, agriculture, and educations. Someone's also asked about the plastic waste upstream. So basically, all of them are actually quite interesting for the investor right now, because the investors are looking for sustainable solutions. You said that Anshul said that the investors are also looking to invest on gender lens. But I think the silver lining is the investors are more aware about the trends towards the impact. So every investor is whether they're providing equity investment grant and etc., they're actually focusing more now on businesses that are making impact. So unfortunately, our time is very limited and we only have like 6 minutes left. So I guess let's give an opportunity to one or two people to ask their questions directly. I think there is Farah from Indonesia. Can you unmute yourself? She asked whether what do you think about the grant landscape? So it's not funding, it is basically grant. for social impact organization like NGO or foundation who relies on grants and probably they're not fitting to receive any type of investment? What do you think the landscape for grant? Dondi first. Dondi, you're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can probably give a short answer is that I honestly don't know much because I haven't worked in the nonprofit sector. But I think it's good that you have clarity that, okay, I may not fit for investments yet and looking for grants. One tip for any funding need, whether you're looking for grant, whether you're looking for debt or equity or others, is not to treat everyone the same, because everyone has their own appetite, like I said, right? So I think it's important for you to research if you're looking for grant in, for example, waste and environment, like look for NGOs or grant makers who are already working in that space. So that's more likely for you to get. And I think you will know a lot of them more on that.
Anshul, do you have any insights on grant landscape in Southeast Asia?
Well, maybe just a couple of things that I can add to this. One would be that, well, when it comes to grants, I mean, they play a huge role, right? It's not about grants versus investments, or it's about what sort of funding you need for what part of your organization. And it holds true for social enterprises as well. Grants are critical for them too. You know, it's not that because you're a social enterprise, you stop looking at grants altogether and you only raise equity and debt or whatever. So very critical to have grants as an important piece in your financial structure. And, again, when it comes to grants and for NGOs specifically, or not-for-profits that are relying primarily on grants as their main source of funding, as Dondi also rightly pointed out, you have to seek the kind of funders who are aligned with the mission that you are working on, right? Because here, unlike social enterprises, which are focused on financial sustainability, developing a business model, so you need to find a funder who can back you up on that as well, together with your mission. Here, you need to find funders who really support your cause. And if you can do that, then grant accessibility should be easier. And I think with, so one is definitely seeking funding from organizations that support the kind of work that you do. There are foundations like that. There are even angels who support the causes that you do. And again, I would think the support system that is coming up in the form of incubators for ideas of this kind, that's another way or avenue to think about if you're trying to develop even a not-for-profit, to think about, because there is funding that comes through from there as well. So yeah, I mean, there are so many avenues for reaching out to grant, but I think it has to be mission aligned with the funder that you're reaching out to.
Okay, so the keyword is vision alignment. Okay, I think this will be the last questions. So we have talked about the social enterprises, like their opportunities on getting capitals, but what about the aspiring social entrepreneurs? They have this idea, but probably they do not have the resources to bootstrap themselves. Someone from Deborah from Indonesia is asking, what are the opportunities for aspiring social entrepreneurs? And when they started their social enterprise, when is the time to seek investment from venture capital?
Should I?
Oh, yeah, you can start first.
Well, in terms of the right time, there is no one right answer for this. It just depends on the stage at which you're at and if you're ready to go ahead and do so. I mean, there is a sort of a spectrum that normally social enterprises follow, right? So when you start off, it's primarily bootstrapped and you maybe put in your own funds and then you raise funding from angels. But I mean, there are no set rules to that extent. So in terms of timing, one has to be ready with the right kind of model to be able to attract the right kind of investor. And that is very critical. You have to go to the right type of investor. If you're too early stage, you go speak to a private equity player, it's not going to work, right? And then you'll come back saying that, sorry, there's no funding in the ecosystem. But that might not be the case, because you are speaking to the wrong investor given the stage of your organization. So there is no one specific timing as such, depends on the stage of the organization and what type of funding for what part of your organization, or what you're looking to do. Are you looking to grow your organization? Are you looking to just fund a project? What it is that you're really seeking. On that basis, you speak to the right funder. In terms of, again, starting a social enterprise or launching it, one thing that I've already talked about is the growing ecosystem of support around incubators and accelerators, which is a great way to begin. You need to immerse yourself into the network, right? Get in the right kind of support. So yes, you may be new to it, but there are circles now which are getting bigger and bigger where you can get support, not just in terms of funding, but in terms of networks, contacts, people who can open doors for you. So just get into those networks without even an objective in mind, because it'll just help you to learn more about the space in general. And there are, again, incubators that start right at the idea seeding level, right? So there are competitions out there which give you funding to be able to do that. So there are various avenues to begin that, but seek support. And then don't be shy of seeking support. Go and talk to people, knock on doors. If you have something, so if you have the passion, you will find your way through. And it's really, I mean, it's all about just going and asking people for their support. Go and speak to industry experts who can become your mentors, who can become your advisors. So get started, but create that circle of influence and advisors and that network as you keep growing. And don't be afraid of getting into networks that are already available, because it's such a great opportunity to learn and to spread that idea that you're working.
Yeah, because to kick off your enterprise, you need other people, you need support. So don't be shy, don't be afraid. Just tap into the network and knock on doors.
It's like a baby, right? And it takes a village to raise a child. So.
Yeah, true. That's true. Dondi, do you have any take on this one, like about for the aspiring social entrepreneurs?
Yes. Definitely. I think the key to anyone running businesses, right? Not whether that's impact and social or not, is to expand your network, because like Anshul said, you need to find the right and the suitable funder for the stage where you are and what types of projects or business you're trying to fund, or what part of the business you're trying to look for funding. So don't treat investors or funders the same, because everyone is different. And I actually like to use the analogy of dating apps, right? You can swipe right on the investor, but if the investor doesn't swipe right on you, then it's not a match. So it's important for you to understand, okay, who are the investors or funders who like something that I can offer. It's a market, it's a demand and supply. So you need to make sure you match that. And the only way to expand that is by talking to more people, expand your network, join the program from ASEAN Foundation. I think that's one way to meet like-minded people and get more new connection, to get more ideas and potential collaborations in the future.
Okay, great. So,
and if someone swipes left, don't take it to heart and keep pushing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, you have to be resilient, right?
You have to be resilient. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I can conclude from this discussion is that the ecosystem of social enterprise in Southeast Asia is actually growing. Although the tech investment is declining right now, people are afraid of investing on tech startups right now, but actually the impact funds in Southeast Asia is growing. So the capital is there for all social enterprises out there in Southeast Asia. You have a chance to actually raise capitals. It's just a matter of understanding the type of organizations that you are working, the states that you are in, and then who to talk to, and also like to expand the network, because without networks, probably you wouldn't have access to talks to investors, to talk to incubators and stuff. So even for aspiring entrepreneurs, there are already like players in the ecosystem, incubators that could help you actually develop the ideas, build business models on that, and then kickstart your enterprises. Okay, Anshu and Dondi, thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time is very limited. This is the end of our first segment, and thank you very much for joining. But before you go, let's take a few pictures together, yeah? I'll count 3, 2, 1, and then we will take a couple of pictures. Okay, I'm gonna count from 3, 2, 1. Okay, another one. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you very much, Anshu and Dondi, and I hope that we will have another opportunity to collaborate again in the future. To all the audiences, you may just search their name on LinkedIn and connect to them. If you have any questions that haven't been answered today, feel free to reach them out through their LinkedIn. And yeah, don't be shy to connect. Don't be shy to knock on doors, right? Be resilient. Thank you very much, Anshu and Dondi. I hope you have a great day, and you are very welcome to stay until the end of the webinar, but you can leave the premises if you have anything to take care of. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here. And yes, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you want to have a further chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Anshu.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool.